What we saw from Mbappe, what we saw from Olise, what we saw from everyone, it was just hard to ask for more from France.
And Dembélé. And Mbappe!
Heaven is going to bring more goals. We said that Messi is going to score goals, but in the end, Mbappe is going to beat that record.
Olise. Oh, sweet, sweet. Mbappe is so sweet.
Paris, December 2022. Extra time in a World Cup final. France are down. Argentina are seconds from the trophy. And then one man decides he isn't done. Kylian Mbappé scores a hat trick in a World Cup final, the first in 56 years, and for a few minutes drags an entire nation back from the dead.
Mbappe! Oh, wow! He is an awesome force of nature!
It wasn't the first time France needed one player to save them, and history says it won't be the last. Welcome to Ball Archive. Today, we're breaking down the real engine behind French football. Not the tactics, not the federation, but the single-star formula that has defined Les Bleus for 70 years. When France has the right man, they're unstoppable. When they don't, they fall apart. Let's get into it. Long before Mbappe, before Zidane, before Platini, there was Just Fontaine. In the 1958 World Cup, Fontaine did something no one has matched before or since. 13 goals in a single tournament.
The scorer is the inevitable Fontaine.
France reached the semi-finals on the back of one man's finishing. But here's the pattern that would repeat for decades. Take away the superstar, and the whole structure crumbles. Fontaine's career was cut short by injury, and without a comparable talent to replace him, France entered a genuine dark age. They missed major tournaments through the 60s. Scouting was inconsistent, player development was scattered, and there was no clear identity. For nearly 20 years, French football drifted. That's the first lesson in the France formula. The nation doesn't just want a good team. It needs a single face to build around. Without one, everything stalls.
The drought ended with Michel Platini. He wasn't just talented, he carried the national team on his back, literally qualifying them for tournaments almost single-handedly. A free kick against the Netherlands sent France to the 1982 World Cup, where they produced one of the great semifinals in history against West Germany, ultimately losing on penalties.
Olise, saved by Schumacher. Rubes, West Germany are in the World Cup final.
Then came 1984. Platini had statistically one of the greatest individual tournaments any player has ever produced. 9 goals in 5 games at the European Championship on home soil, ending in France's first ever major trophy.
And Platini, 5th goal of the tournament. And Platini again. Oh my word!
Even legends of the game called it the best individual performance they'd ever witnessed. But the pattern held. By 1986, Platini's body was breaking down. He was still good enough to help France reach another World Cup semifinal, but the magic that defined 1984 was gone, and so was France's momentum. Within a few years, they'd missed the 1990 World Cup entirely, get knocked out early at Euro 92, and then suffer one of the most humiliating failures in their history, missing out on the 1994 World Cup altogether. The French press called it a national embarrassment.
But in 1994, they failed to qualify for the World Cup in quite unfortunate fashion. Although France had some serious gems on their side, Bulgaria were in their glory days. In France's first match, they lost 2-0 to them. France looked to redeem themselves later. They won their next 6 matches. But in the final 3 match days, they lost their footing.
Without their superstar at his peak, France simply weren't competitive. Out of that low point came the most complete version of the France formula the country has ever produced. Zinedine Zidane.
Zidane arrived as part of a golden generation. Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, Lilian Thuram. But from the moment he stepped onto the international stage, it was clear who the team would be built around. At the 1998 World Cup on home soil, Zidane scored twice in the final against a Brazil side led by the most feared striker on the planet, Ronaldo Nazario. France won 3-0. 6 months later, Zidane was named the best player on earth. 2 years after that, he did something almost no nation had managed since West Germany in the 1970s. Won the European Championship while holding the World Cup at the same time. For a brief stretch, France weren't just good. They were the standard every other nation measured itself against. Then, 2002. Zidane picked up a thigh injury just before the World Cup. He barely played. And France, the reigning world champions, didn't score a single goal in their first 2 matches. They were eliminated in the group stage, one of the most stunning collapses in World Cup history, and proof, again, that this team's ceiling and floor both ran through one player. Zidane came back for 2004, but age had caught up, and France exited in the quarterfinals. He retired from international football. And true to form, without him, the team started to lose its way again, struggling just to secure qualification for the next World Cup. So France did something unusual. They asked him to come back.
And in 2006, an aging, supposedly finished Zidane produced one of the great farewell tours in football history, carrying France all the way to the World Cup final, winning the tournament's Best Player award along the way. Yes, it ended in chaos, with a red card in his final ever match, but even that moment captured what Zidane meant to the nation. Love, fury, and total dependence, all at once. When Zidane walked away for good, France didn't just lose a player. They lost their entire identity. Between 2008 and 2010, the national team fell apart in ways that had nothing to do with talent and everything to do with leadership. At Euro 2008, a squad stacked with proven quality. Henry, Karim Benzema, Franck Ribéry finished bottom of their group. 2 years later, the 2010 World Cup turned into one of the most infamous meltdowns in football history. Players reportedly refused to train. One forward was sent home mid-tournament after a dressing room blow-up with the coach. The French president himself got involved, trying to understand what had gone so wrong. There was no Zidane to hold it together. There was no clear leader at all.
France was wild back in 2010. Their national team was in shambles. The only reason they qualified to the World Cup that year was due to a handball by Thierry Henry, and in the tournament the shit show continued, with Anelka insulting his coach at halftime. He was sent home, and the next day FA organized a strike in protest to the coach sending their teammates home.
And the France formula, without its central pillar, simply had nothing to stand on.
The next chapter of the formula looked a little different. Antoine Griezmann wasn't a flashy household name the way Zidane or Platini had been. But for the better part of a decade, he was the connective tissue holding the French national team together, creating chances, tracking back, linking midfield to attack, doing the unglamorous work that lets other stars shine. It's a strange footnote in football history that Griezmann, arguably one of the most complete players of his generation, ended up on the losing side of a Champions League final, a European Championship final, and a La Liga title race, all in the same stretch of his career. But when it mattered most for his country, in the 2018 World Cup final, he delivered a goal and an assist, named man of the match as France lifted their second World Cup. That 2018 squad is often remembered as one of the most talented France has ever assembled. Paul Pogba, N'Golo Kanté, a rock-solid Hugo Lloris in goal. But it was Griezmann's balance, paired with the emergence of a teenage phenomenon, that made it work. That teenager was Kylian Mbappé, and in 2018 he announced himself to the world. 4 goals, young player of the tournament, and a level of speed and composure that made grown defenders, including a shell-shocked Argentina backline, look like they were standing still. The formula had a new face, and true to the pattern, the highs and lows followed almost immediately.
At Euro 2020, Mbappe missed a decisive penalty against Switzerland, and France, the reigning world champions, were eliminated in the round of 16. It was Platini in '86 and Zidane in 2002 all over again. When the central star underperforms, so does the nation. But 2 years later, Mbappe answered in the biggest way possible. At the 2022 World Cup final, with France barely showing up for over an hour of football, Mbappe produced a hat-trick in the space of minutes to drag his country level against Lionel Messi's Argentina, before eventually falling in a penalty shootout. He won the Golden Boot. He was 23 years old, and he had already carried a nation on his shoulders twice. When Griezmann retired in 2024, France lost the last true bridge to that 2018 balance. And now the question facing this generation isn't whether they have talent. It's whether they can find structure around their superstar the way past generations eventually did.
The current supporting cast might be the deepest France has had in years. Ousmane Dembélé, long considered a player who never quite lived up to his potential, has finally turned into one of the most dangerous attackers in world football, recently recognized as one of the best players on the planet. Michael Olise plays with the kind of unhurried control that draws comparisons to Platini himself, someone who seems to slow the game down around him. Rayan Cherki brings something raw, street football instincts, unpredictable passing, the kind of flair that occasionally recalls Zidane at his most audacious. Add in Bradley Barcola and Désiré Doué, both shaped by PSG's recent dominance in Europe. And this is a squad with weapons at every level. But talent has never been the issue for France. Balance has. The question is whether this generation can build real cohesion around Mbappe, rather than simply hoping he carries them again. None of this happens by accident. France's ability to keep producing generational talent, decade after decade, comes down to one institution, Clairefontaine, the national academy that opened its doors in 1988.
Clairefontaine takes France's most promising 13 to 15-year-olds, many from the Paris region, one of the most talent-dense areas in world football, and develops them with a philosophy that prioritizes technique over trophies, comfort on the ball, both feet, adaptability across different systems and positions. Education continues alongside training, keeping young players grounded rather than burned out by professional pressure too early. It's a nationwide net, too. Scouts reach into small towns as well as major cities, and clubs across the country are required to invest in their own academies, keeping standards high everywhere, not just in Paris. The result is an uninterrupted talent pipeline. Henry, Nicolas Anelka, Mbappe, Griezmann. The names change, but the system behind them doesn't. 70 years of French football tells the same story on repeat. Fontaine in the 50s, Platini in the 80s, Zidane at the turn of the millennium, Mbappe right now. Different eras, different styles, same formula. Find the one player capable of lifting an entire nation, build everything around him, and hope the supporting cast is strong enough to catch him when he falls. Right now, that supporting cast might be the best it's been in years. Whether it's enough to finally break the cycle, a France that doesn't rise and fall purely on one man's shoulders, is the question this generation still has to answer.
That's it for this one. If you want to see what a third World Cup would actually mean for Mbappe's legacy, where it puts him next to Pelé, Maradona, and Messi, that breakdown is coming next on Ball Archive.